Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, I show you how to make an ultra compact in-ear monitoring rig. So for those that have been hanging around this channel for a couple of years, you will know that in my process of learning how to put together in-ear monitoring rigs, I have made, I think, 3 rigs for the band and 2 individual videos. Basically, as the in-ear rig that my band Dragged Under has evolved, I've basically made a video kind of documenting that process. Well, as things grow and evolve, my band has a month of tour dates in Europe over in June of this year, 2022. And that has presented some interesting challenges. And yeah, we're gonna dive into those challenges with this in-ear rig in this video. Now, before we go any further, this video is sponsored by Sweetwater. Now, Sweetwater has made it possible for this in-ear rig to even exist, which we will get to in just a little bit, but shout out to them for sponsoring this video. So when a band goes over to Europe, there are several challenges gear-wise that you really kind of have to deal with. Are you going to bring all of your own stuff? Are you going to rent some stuff when you're over there? Or is it going to be a combination of the two? And this is when you would typically rely on your relationships that you have with your gear endorsements to hopefully backline for as little cost as possible gear when you go over there, so you don't have to fly with it and risk it getting damaged or lost in transit, etc., etc. Well, a challenging part of going over to Europe is my band needs in-ear monitors. And now we could rent an in-ear monitoring rig when we were over in Europe. That is incredibly expensive, but it's a turnkey system. Or we could take apart our 12 rack rolling rack unit rig here in the States and maybe split it up into 2 different 6U cases and bring it over there with us. Or the conclusion that we have come to, if you're watching this video, is we decided to build a second in-ear rig, attempting to fit it in basically half the space as our normal in-ear rig. Not easy. Now, over the course of 2 days, me and my buddy Jason Lackey built this in-ear rig, and I documented it all on camera. I documented the pain, the misery, the trials, the tribulations, and then I proceeded to accidentally erase the first day. And that's why I am talking to you like this right now. So I am basically going to talk you guys all the way up till day 2 of the build for this rig, at which point we will then go over to Jason's home studio to troubleshoot some XLR issues. However, for right now, I'm just going to talk you through this rig and the ins and outs and the challenges that came with building it. So like any in-ear rig, I usually start with my iPad. And my iPad, I was able to kind of cut out and put together my ideal in-ear rig that would fit into 6 spaces. And it looked like this. And why did I choose what I chose? Well, we don't necessarily need a full rack width audio interface, for one. We don't need a drawer. We don't need a rack mount DI. There's a couple of different things that we really could do without if we had to on the bigger rig that we are used to playing with here in the States, the 12 rack, the 12U rack rolling case. So Jason and I systematically kind of built up over several iterations what an in-ear rig would look like if you had to fit it within the scope of a 6U case that could easily be put into a Pelican case and then transported on the airplane. What does that even look like? This was a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. So first, obviously we need more in-ear monitors. So we went with, like we always have, the Sennheiser G4 in-ear wireless units. These are courtesy of Sweetwater because they were the only people in the entire country that had any in stock. Now, we are Sennheiser artists and we've worked a lot with Sennheiser, but Sweetwater came through for us, and they were able to provide the G4 units for this rack build, as well as the PreSonus gear that I decided to use. Now, in our big rack, we have a PreSonus 24R 2-rack space digital mixer that took the place of our old Behringer X32. Now, I need that to be as small as possible, and we don't need all those inputs or outputs, so I went with the PreSonus 16R digital rack mixer, and while we were sticking with PreSonus, I went ahead and got a 68C, also courtesy of Sweetwater. This is an audio interface, which we will get to in just a little bit, but this was more or less a half rack in width, so I hoped. I really couldn't find any definitive measurements of this interface as far as how tall it was. I really had to just get everything together and see how it all fit together, and boy, it was really tough. And the last piece of the in-ear rack is we need a split. We needed the ART S8. Now this is a 3-way S8, which was actually a blessing in disguise, as this was the only one I could get. I could not get the 2-way that our old rig has, but as you will see in just a second, this came in very, very handy. And last but not least, this big thing that says Sennheiser at the top is not a power conditioner. It is a RF antenna combiner. So all of these G4 units combine, the radio signals combine into this one unit, and then it beams it out to our body packs and into our in-ear monitors in our ears. This is a very clean, efficient way to do this. It also powers the G4, so I don't have to use the individual wall warts that come with the unit. So this is just less things to plug in and more compact. So some things that you obviously do not see on the front of this thing is a power conditioner. You don't see the drawer. You don't see a rack mount DI, and you don't see a full width pass-through or an audio interface, a full width interface. So that right there saved a lot of space for this build, but it was still really, really tight in the back. That sounds wrong. So after initially putting everything together, we quickly realized, Jason and I, that the 68C PreSonus audio interface was literally just like 2 millimeters too wide to fit in a half rack space. It also couldn't be rack mounted technically. After much deliberation, we decided to take the end, one side, off of the end cap of the PreSonus 68C. Okay, so the 68C has these decorative curved blue non-functional things in the housing. We had to take one of those off. So what we ended up doing was we stuck the 68C and the bottom G4 to the 16R PreSonus. Both of these are stuck with double back foam tape to the top of the housing of the PreSonus digital mixer, and then everything is basically sandwiched up to the bottom of the next row of the G4s. This was the only way we could make this work, and it was a nightmare. So down here at the bottom of the rack is where our Helix rigs and our vocal mics would plug into the system and then split off to the front of house and to our to the mixer to get to us, our in-ears. However, with the 2-way ART S8, we would have to find some way to come out of the rear of the unit to get into the front inputs of the PreSonus. But this 3-way has direct outputs right on the front, which was a huge blessing. However, we quickly realized that with a standard XLR connector, that was way too deep to leave plugged in to fit into its accompanying Pelican case. What do you do about that? And that brings us to day 2. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Past Fluff, and he is going to talk you through the process of finally putting the rest of this together and figuring out this XLR situation and getting this thing all rigged up. Okay, so here we are, I think, what, 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
2 weeks has passed, but through the magic of editing, no time has passed. I'm back here at Jason's house, and we have our custom super short XLR connectors that we need to complete this build. And
I'm excited to check these out.
yeah, these are super cool. I will link down below to where you can get some of these. These weren't super easy to find. However, I've seen photos of them, so I just had to do some digging. But this entire set, so basically for a total of, I got 16 connectors. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 connectors. I can't remember what it was. It's what I need. Anyway, this whole set with the cable was about 160 bucks. So other than that, if we can get this build done with these, I will be super stoked. But we have to do some soldering, and we have to put them together. So, yep, that's what we're doing today with our matching welder soldering irons. So yeah, we're gonna get to soldering. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over the signal flow for this IEM. It's identical to my other builds, however, I will still go over it. My 3 vocal mics and my 3 guitar processors come into the input right here. They're gonna go next to these colored caps. The S8 then splits off. They will go into these upper colored XLRs to go to our in-ears. And on the back of this, there is a HOSA patch bay, which is the output to the front of house. Now what's connecting these is just XLR connectors. Next, we'll have a laptop hooked up and used the interface as just an interface. We are not using the PreSonus mixer as an interface. We are using the PreSonus 16R as just a mixer. This is redundancy, but also this is much safer in case one of them goes down. You can still use the other to get by for a set. Okay, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Next, we are going to combine the click track coming out of the audio interface with our own playing coming into the PreSonus 16R, which our own individual mixes are created inside the 16R interface as in software, and then they are piped out to the G4s where they come to our own body packs, and then we hear our own mixes. It's actually a very, very simple rig. It just looks slightly intimidating in the back once you see all the wires. However, this is a very, very simple rig. It's basically a giant Y cable, if that makes sense. So I will link down below in the description for a complete wiring diagram that I have drawn on my iPad if you want to check this out for yourself. Now I want to go ahead and shout out HOSA Cables, Circle 3 Designs for this beautiful 6-space rack unit that can fit in a Pelican case. Sweetwater for sponsoring this video and for coming up with the Sennheiser G4 units, and PreSonus for the 16R and the 68C, and yeah, Art S8 3-way switch bowl splitter. Awesome, love that. What else am I forgetting? That's basically it. I will link down in the description to everything I've used with this build. All the documentation will be down there. This is not an inexpensive build. This is an expensive, time-consuming, painful build. But if you used a different interface, perhaps it would probably be far less painful. I don't know. However, getting everything to work in such a compact space is very, very challenging. However, well worth it. So it's up to you if you want to take on this challenge. However, this is what I did. This is what I ended up coming with. And I hope this helps you if you are considering taking on your own super compact Euro IEM rig build. All applicable links down below in the description. You have been wonderful. I have been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.